So again, welcome everyone. And again, nice and wonderful to see all of you. Those on Zoom and in persons. So we'll start as usual with watching our breath mindfully to bring our mind in moment present. Then we can try to generate good intention, motivation for being here. May us coming here together, giving our precious time to listen, to reflect, contemplate. May all these become cause and conditions to transform our mind, transform our heart. So that we can become more kind, compassion, more wise, with more wisdom. So we can be more and greater help and benefit to others and oneself. And may it be cause conditions to obtain our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So that we can not only be help, but to be greatest help. And not to be greatest help to some individual, but to each and every sentient beings. Equally. Okay, so
for everyone in this room, we're going to be using the Gold Prayer Book, page 73, please. To the founder, the endowed,
transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyed, a completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and good conduct. So God, the Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings, became teacher of God and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya plane. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge.
Homage to
the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with the bodies as many as all realms all expect. With the Supreme Head, I pay homage.
do not
commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, cloud, see conditioned things as such.
Through these
merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four falls, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death.
And now to the Heart Sutra, it's on page 76. I prostrate
To the Arya
Devil
Devajana. Thus did the one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on a mass of mountains in Rajgiri, together with a great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was observed in concentration in the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the bodhisattva, mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara look upon the very practice of profound perfection and wisdom and beheld the fact aggregate also as empty of inherent nature.
Then through the power of the Buddha,
The venerable Sherab said this to the bodhisattva, mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection and wisdom? He said that when the bodhisattva, mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the venerable Sherab. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage, wish to practice the activities of profound perfection and wisdom, should look upon others. For they can repeatedly be wholly those by aggregate, also as empty of inherent nature. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are empty, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stand, no division, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena.
There is no I element.
And so on up to and including no mind element or no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on and up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, there is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on enjoying the perfection of wisdom, a mind without obscuration, without fear. Completely passed beyond the era, they reach this point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who are in the daytime also manifestly completely awake to the unsurprised or perfect complete in life, in life and perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurprised knowledge, the mantra that totally passed by all the suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of perfection for wisdom declared. Alata gate parakat arasangate bodhisattva. The bodhisattva, mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from the consciousness, commended the bodhisattva, mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. Want you to practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The one having thus spoken, the venerable Sherab Putra, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, they were surrounded the entire day along the boards were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan.
Then go to the mandala offering on page. Front mandala, page 97, please.
Ki chonshi meto chare ralesi ni gen Sangye Shindu Mite Uvaye Dokunan Shima Shebayo Idam Guru
And then refuge in bodhicitta, page 98. I go for refuge
until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Science. By the merits I created to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Geshe danzo gesho nama chansu padu dani yatsu dagi sheshe gebe sonami chola pende sangye dupaisho sangye danzo gesho nama chansu padu dani yatsu dagi sheshe gebe sonami I think so. We have been, we have a gap of few weeks, but we have been going through this one particular practice, Tara practice. I think that is done here at the center, and it is compiled by Venerable Rupina together from so there are many different Tara practices, different sadhanas, long, short, very short, put by different teachers, masters, So since this one is being done here at the center, so we went through that practice. And I guess we reached up to the mantra, yeah?
Yeah, we were I think we're on page 6.
Yeah, page 6.
Right.
Right
before space-like meditation, space-like MTS meditation.
Yeah. I think we went through the mantras. And then
yes.
So again, I think we went through up to that page number 6, where you recite the mantras of Dhatu So, and then when you recite that, then many times, so then from the heart of yourself, then the garlands of mantras, from Dari to Dari, and from that, imitate many taras as equal as sentient beings, and then cleansing, purifying, healing, and liberating all sentient beings to their full potential of Aradhara statehood, So, and so the meaning of the mantras, Om Tari Turi Soha, this is the Taras, Green Taras mantras. And like many of the mantras, it starts with Om. And Om has 3 letters, A, O, Ma. And so this, when those 3 letters put together, or syllable or letters, then it makes this sound, Om. So that, it represents, enlightened body, speech, and mind, as well as unenlightened body, speech, and mind. So enlightened body, speech, and mind is something that we wish to achieve that. That's the goal, And so to transform our unenlightened body and mind into enlightened body, speech, and mind, And how can we do that? What is the method, the path to transform that? And then Taritu Risoha is that shows the method, the path to do that. So Tari, is liberating from the samsara. Tari means liberating from the samsara. So, and when we talk about samsara in terms of human beings, then from the suffering of samsara of human beings, such as the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, death, the suffering of not getting what we want, the suffering of encountering what we do not wish, no matter how much we have, never being satisfied, and so forth, those sufferings, So Tari is so the path that free from the sufferings and the samsara, so that among the Four Noble Truths, the noble truth of sufferings. And so Om Tare, Tutare, the next one, Tutare, is the path that free from the fears, 8 kinds of fears. And as the first Dalai Lama wrote in one of his prayer to the Tara, the 8 fears, are related with the fear of element and, such as fire, the fear of, floods, waters, the fear of others, wild animals, or poisonous animals, so forth, as well as the fear of afflictive emotions, 8 different kinds of afflictive emotions. So, for example, maybe if I can read. So in terms of the external fear, the fear of lion, being attacked by the lions. And in terms of delusion is related with the pride, So pride. And then in terms of external fear, the fear of wild elephants, the danger or the fear from the fear of danger from the wild elephant. In terms of the delusions, is the delusion in general and especially the ignorance. And then other fears, the fear of the forest fire, external fear, and in terms of internal, the fear of anger or hatred, delusion-wise. And then in terms of the external fear, the snake, the fear of snake being bitten by the snakes, external, and then internal, the fear of jealousy that related with that snake. And in terms of the external fear, the fear of thief, robber, being robbed or stolen, the fear of that. And in terms of the internal delusion, then is the fear of wrong view, including fanatical, fanatical views. And then in terms of external fear, the fear of being in prison, being in prisons. And then in terms of delusion, internal fear that is created with greediness, miserliness. And then the fear of floods, from water, And then in terms of internal fear, delusion was, desire, attachments. And then in terms of the external is the fear of being harmed by, external harmful spirit. And in terms of internal, then is the doubt, delusional doubt, the doubt caused by the delusion. So those are the 8 fear, external fear as well as internal fear. So, and mainly the internal fear, so Om Tare Tutare is being liberated from those 8 fears, external fears, and especially those internal fear of those different type of those delusions. So with that, then that it explained the path, among the 4 noble truths, the second noble truth, that is the noble truth of originations, the cause of the samsara suffering, and so because the cause of the samsara and suffering is our own, contaminated karma and the delusions. So overcoming those delusions, the fear of delusions. Om Tare, Tutare, Turi Soha. Turi, the next Turi is overcoming the illness, the path that overcome the illness, sickness, illness. So again, when we talk about illness or sickness, we can talk about external physical illness, emotional illness, sickness or illness, as well as the cause of those illness, obscurations, And so overcoming that is the cessations. The cessation that is free from the illness of the delusion and the obscurations. And so with that explains the third noble truth, the noble truth of cessations. And soha is generally meaning be rooted, be established, be stabilized. Here, be rooted by the path. Be rooted path in yourself, in your mind. And here, it shows among the 4 noble truths, the noble truth of the path that lead to the cessations. The practice of Tirihaya training, the training of moral discipline, meditation, concentration, and wisdom. That is the path. So, Om Tare Tutare Turi Soha means, it shows our spiritual goal, what we want to achieve, is to transform our unenlightened body, speech into an enlightened body, speech, and mind. And then that's Om, and Tare Tutare Turi Soha is how to do that. How can we transform our unenlightened body, speech into enlightened bodies by practicing, by integrating the 4 noble truths, by practicing those practices through that we can transform our unenlightened body, speech, and mind. So that is the meaning of Om Tare Tutare Turi Soha. If you go more literally, so that is more kind of hidden meaning. In a lot of those mantras, there has literal meaning and hidden meanings. And literal meanings is the liberator, mother liberator who liberates from the sufferings. So it means I pay homage, prostrate, go refuge to the mother liberator who liberates from the sufferings. That is kind of literal translation of Om Tare Tutare Turi Soha, and that is the name mantra of Tara. But if you go more deeper, then that is the hidden meaning. That shows the result we want to achieve and the path or the method to achieve that. So of course, normally we go for refuge to the Mother Tara. and we engage in the practice of Mother Tara, whether we do extensive practice, very short practice, even just reciting the mantras and doing visualizations when we could, and even when we cannot do proper visualizing, even just reciting the mantras with a strong faith, strong refuge, faith, devotion to Mother Tara, we do that in order to, cure and heal from the illness, of oneself, others, together to overcome the obstacles for oneself and others, whatever obstacle, external obstacle, internal obstacles, secret obstacles, all different kinds of obstacles, to clear the obstacles, and to gather all the right conducive conditions for the success, for the success of whatever project, whatever activities that we want to success, But the main purpose, that is more kind of temporary purpose. That is not the main purpose of going refuge to Tara and doing the practice of Tara. The main purpose is to overcome our own those afflictive emotions. So to get the blessings of the Mother Tara, blessings, inspirations, guidance, and blessing, inspiration, guidance can come in different forms, so that we can work with our mind, so we can reduce and eventually, completely destroy all this afflictive emotion, just as mentioned before, pride, jealousy, greediness, ignorance, attachments, angers, and wrong views, and afflictive delusions, so those are the 8 delusional. We talk about the fear, so mainly to overcome that and the obscurations. So that is the main purpose. That is really to transform our mind, to change our mind. And when we transform our mind, when we change our mind, that changes our karma. By changing our karma, we change our experience. We change our experience, so we have less problems, less difficulties, less obstacles. So that is the meaning of the mantra and purpose of doing the Tara practice, for that purpose. When we practice any kind of deities, the main purpose of doing all this deity practice is really to transform our mind. It's not to solving ordinary worldly activities and things. That comes by product, but really is to work with our mind. We should understand that. Really, it's really to change our mind, transform our mind. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, first classes of this, Mother Tara is known as Mother Tara, and is the mother of all the victories, all the Buddhas, known as, and she's the manifestations of all the Buddha's activities in that form, in that energy. all the activities. So, and because of that, when we rely on Madhudharas, things happen more quickly, swiftly, and because of that energy of that activities, that actions or activities. So that's how we rely on. So that is the meaning of the mantra. So if we have little understanding of that mantra, and then when we recite, then it becomes even more helpful, beneficial. And as I mentioned, blessings come in a different forms. Sometimes when you are it can come in as form of inspirations. Sometimes you are not inspired in your practice, and then when you do that, whatever Dharma practice, meditations, then suddenly there's some kind of inspirations. That is the blessings. Sometimes your mind's not really, you don't feel anything, very dry. You try to practice, meditate, and suddenly you start to really have something feeling, some transformation, some kind of experience. That is the blessings. Sometimes we are very lazy, become very lazy, and then again when we meditate or trying to do a practice or recite the mantras, and suddenly it gives you some kind of energy and to overcome laziness. So that is the blessings. So blessing can manifest in so many different ways. We can so basically to receive that kind of blessings, we do practice to get that blessing and to bless, to transform our mind, mainly for men. Of course, we can also, when someone has obstacles, we can also do that. When someone needs some help because they are dealing with challenges and difficult things. But main is always, we should not lose the main purpose of this deity. Is really to transform our mind. So then here it says, when you have finished, when you have finished the mantras, you can make following requests. So you recite mantras as many as possible. 7 times, 21 times, 1 mala, many malas. Sometimes you can chant, slowly, and sometimes you can recite a little more quickly. And there are different chantings you can find, kind of. Sometimes the chanting, the sound can be very healing, the power of the mantra, the sound has power. So when you chant through that kind of sound, it can be very soothing, peaceful, relieving, healings, generating strong devotions, and so forth. So when we recite the mantras, there are 3 different ways of reciting. Sometimes we recite loudly. And one purpose of reciting loudly is so that others can hear it, so that they get an imprint from that mantras, whether it is another human beings, animals, or sometimes unseen beings. So by hearing that, they get good imprint and blessings. And sometimes we recite softly, almost like whispering. You can hear yourself, but other people doesn't hear. That's one word. Sometimes you don't want to disturb others. People might be disturbed by you chanting that. You don't want to disturb someone's. And so in those cases, when you recite, you can recite kind of very softly, where you can almost hear yourself, but others can like that. And then there is another way of reciting. You recite mentally. You don't even recite verbally. You recite mentally. In your mind, you recite Tat Buddha Turiso, just by the mind. And that one is very helpful to concentrate. When you recite with your mouth, your mind can go in different places. You still recite it. But when you have to recite by mind, you have to really concentrate. Otherwise, you cannot recite it. You know. So again, there are different way of reciting it. You know, and different purpose. Each of those reciting has its own benefit, its own purpose. So that is same with any mantras. When you recite, you can, and sometimes you can recite softly. You can hear and just concentrate on the sound. You know, rest in that sound. Also, can be a kind of bit nice to rest your mind. Sometimes when you try to do visualizations, cleansing, receiving blessings, and a long time of these mantras, you know, or other visualization as, you know, sending out light or Tara and purifying, cleansing sentient beings, their karma, delusions, and leading them to enlightenment or Tara, different visualization, different meditation while you recite that. Sometimes when you are doing that for a long time, it can be tiring because your mind is always walking. Do you get it? With those different visualizations. And I find sometimes to rest your mind too. It's just when you recite and just listen and just focus without thinking anything, just listen to their sound and resting, you know. That's one way of, and the other things you recite mentally, you know, and concentrate just on that. And so those are some method that we can use when we recite the mantras, you know. And the request, please, Guru, root Guru, glorious and precious, you know. So here, root Guru, but in the form of Tara. Okay, Mother Tara. So seeing the root Guru, actually, we have to see all the Gurus one, same. And Tara is manifestation of all the Gurus. But you all often see root Gurus in many of those practice prayers. Because root Guru is something easy for us to have faith, devotions, trust. Some other Gurus, we might not have same feelings at the moment. So we start with someone most easy one. And then we try to expand all other Gurus like that and expand to all other Gurus. And eventually the goal is to see all Gurus one, same, inseparable. It's the same, but in a different forms. And all the Gurus here, root Guru, here, in these cases, in the form of Mother Tara. Okay, so this root Guru, glorious and precious, you know, who is the source of our inspiration, source of our happiness, of all sentient beings. So remain upon the lotus at my heart, you know. And looking after me through your great kindness, you know, and through your great kindness by guiding and providing, you know, guidance, teachings, oral transmissions, empowerments, commentaries, advices, instructions, you know, through your kindness of that, guiding us in that way. Grant me the realizations of body, speech, and mind, you know. So please bless me to grant enlightened body, speech, and mind like yourself. So that is the request we make. And then after we make requests, then we can imagine and visualize, the Guru Mother Tara delightfully, joyfully accept your request as you requested. Of course, Tara is always there, whether you request or not. But we have to make the karmic connections and request and create that connections so that blessings are always there, but whether you are able to receive the blessing or not, it very much depends on connections, The more connection you have, the more blessing you are able to receive. It's raining. The cloud, the rain has no discriminations. It's always raining, but whether you get the benefit of that, you have to put the plant in the right place where you get the rain. So if your plant doesn't get rain, even when it's raining, it's not the problem of the rain itself. It's because you didn't put your plant in the right place to be able to receive it. Same thing, the blessing is always there, like it's raining or the sun is always there. And for the plant to receive, you have to have in the right place. In the same way, so that we need to create the right conditions, cause, and so those practice is to create that condition to be. So from their side, whether you make requests or not, always there. So from our side, we have to create the right condition to be able to receive it. That's part of those practice. So after that request, then here it comes the meditation, space like emptiness meditations. So normally, there are two types of meditation on emptiness, space like emptiness meditation and illusion like emptiness meditations. Mainly two kinds. So here, space like emptiness meditations. Now you dissolve everything into what they call space like emptiness. And here he said, as Lama Yeshe says, so Lama Yeshe was, teacher who founded Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa were the one who founded the FMT first open monastery, and from there, then rest of the FMT all over the world, and Venerable Rubina, she also, she was student of Lama Yeshe. I personally didn't receive much teaching from him, even though I was in monasteries, I went to monasteries, I think around, to 75, 76, beginning of 76. And Lama Yeshe was there, he passed away in 83. But by that time, he was traveling a lot, so he wasn't so much in monastery. And even when he was there, he was teaching mainly Western, meditations courses, leading. And he taught a little bit for the senior monks, but we were young. So we didn't really kind of receive much teachings, even though we saw him. And so anyway, so most of you know who Lama Yeshe is, but since here it mentioned Lama Yeshe, so I just wanted to mention a little bit that. And he was also the teacher of Lama Zopa as well, main teacher. So as Lama said, this is not the actual meaning of emptiness, but it is very helpful way to let go of grasping at everything as concrete and self-existence. Yeah, when you think everything dissolves into emptiness, and when you try to remain in that empty space, because everything has dissolved, so it helps to let go of grasping sense of concrete and solid, of everything. But that is not actually really the, meditation on emptiness itself. the meditation on emptiness has to come through, especially at the very beginning, through analytical meditations. So that is why it is said it's helpful way to let go, grasping everything is even though it's not actual meaning of the emptiness. But when you have already done a lot of analytical meditations over the time, and then with the time, then there's less and less requirement of much analytical meditation. Without so much analytical, you can still kind of be able to be in state of that emptiness without much analysis. You can just go into, because you have done that so much of that. But at the very beginning, so that is, first you imagine that the entire universe dissolved into empty space. So, and you place your countries, planet, galaxies, so all dissolved into the emptiness, You can visualize all of them becoming light, and light dissolve into emptiness, So it is like everything being sucked by the black hole or whatever, like that, and empty. This universe and all the beings in that universe, all the sentient beings, which we cling to as a so real, so real, so concrete, so solid, so inherently existent, as existence is on site, just dissolve into vast empty space. Not one atom left, zero, as Lama says. So you can visualize all of them becoming light and tiny, and then totally dissolve into emptiness, and the total emptiness. There's not even the most smallest atoms, anything, any particular there, just completely empty. In terms of the planet, the universe, the world. Then you dissolve your body, So after dissolving everything around you, the universe into that empty, then you dissolve your body. The basis of this, I, so the body and our aggregate to whom we grasp as a I or me or self, the thing we know most, cherish most, identify with most, you imagine that from your feet upwards, to your heart chakra, and from your crown downwards to your heart chakra, it just dissolves. And you feel that everything absorbs into your heart chakra. So, from the top, they dissolve into light, the light dissolves into your heart. From the downwards, they dissolve into the light dissolves into the heart chakra. So that is. Then you dissolve your thoughts after the body. After dissolving the body, then you dissolve your thoughts. Those elaborate conceptual constructions. The thought of I. Thought of the conception, the thought, the grasping of I, me, self, which have no basic in reality. If you really analyze this, if you go deeper, then, you cannot find that I. Even though you cannot find that I, but there is a strong grasping conception, thoughts that grabs to be I, me, self, that which are completely made of a hallucination, as Lama Zopa says, So even though there is no inherently existing self, but our mind grasps, to exist inherently. Therefore, it's like hallucination. There's no real that, but it's totally mistaken, totally like hallucinations. So that all of this such concept, grasping thoughts, dissolve into empty space. Not one atom left, zero. So all the perceptions, sense perception dissolve, the 5 sense perception. Then all the conceptual thought dissolve, they're kind of known as 80 different conceptual thought, they all dissolve, And then even that, after that, there is 3 kind of subtle consciousness, like white appearance, like a consciousness, like a white appearance, consciousness like a red appearance, consciousness like dark appearance, they also dissolve. So they all dissolve. Okay, so then here it says, all that is left is your Lamatara consciousness. So what is left is this clear light mind, the most subtle consciousness, the most pure, the most clear, subtle consciousness that continues to go from life after life. And that is the one that goes to the enlightenment, all other delusion, other conceptions, they all dissolve, but the only mind that goes, so that is what we think. All that is left is your Lama Tara consciousness, that clear light mind, your clear light mind and the clear light mind of your Guru, the clear light mind of the Mother Tara, they're all the same. They're all the same. The only difference is our clear light mind is at the moment obscured by those conceptions, those delusions. Whereas their clear light mind is free from all of that. But in terms of the nature of that clear light mind itself is one, inseparable. So therefore, that's why, your clear light mind is same as the mind of the clear light mind of the Guru and the Mother Tara. Very subtle, pure and vast as space, And that clear light mind is as vast as the space, all pervading everywhere, And then you think, I am the Dharmakaya. So then you try to meditate, seeing, this clear light mind, the most clear light mind is the Dharmakaya. That pure, vast, most subtle, pure is the Dharmakaya. And, thinking that is, I am the one, that one. You think, this is who I am. Feel completely blissful. This is your nature. And this is the real nature of our mind, subtle mind, and this is the nature of oneself. So, and you feel that you are in the nature of emptiness. Empty of feel you are in the nature of emptiness, that yourself, the clear light mind, everything in the nature of emptiness. Even that most pure, subtle, clear light mind, most pure, even that one, even that mind, the basis of your pure yourself, even that is empty of existence, its own side, empty of existence inherently. So you try to meditate on that. Even that mind, even that ultimate mind, or that most pure and subtle mind, which is the basis of the enlightenment, even that mind is also empty of truly existing, infinite existence. So try to see that, try to rest in that nature. Contemplate conceptually on the meaning of emptiness in whatever level you understand. For example, think about dependent arising, how this mind, this pure Buddha mind, is created by your own past virtuous action. Therefore, is empty of existence, its own side. So, your whatever different reason and logic that we have learned, why this is not inherent in existence, why this mind is not inherent in existence, why this mind is not truly existing, independent existence. So you try to use, different reason and logic why, if it's inherently existing, then it has to be, either one with its parts or separate from its part. If it is one with its part, there is problems. false. If it is separate from its part, again there is problems. There is false, and since it's neither with one or separate from its part, therefore it can't exist from its own side by itself. We can meditate on that, and many different reasons that you see in Nagarjuna's and others' writings, or why it does not exist by its own side, because it exists by depending on other factors. Without other factors, nothing can exist by itself. Since it depends on other factors for its existence, therefore it cannot be existent by itself. If it exists by itself or its own side, from its own side by itself, it means it should be able to exist without depending on other factors. But it cannot exist by depending on many other factors. And so therefore it's empty of truly, inherently, or exists from its own side by itself. So you do a little bit of that contemplations, analysis, analytical meditation, contemplation meditation, and then you come to this understanding, absolutely, with all this reasoning, all these logics, with all this, it can't be existing by itself. And when you come to that conclusions, you are totally convinced it do not exist from its own side or by itself, and totally empty of existence from its own side by itself, there's sense of emptiness. And then you try to rest in that emptiness. Try to be in that emptiness as much as you can, okay? So that is what. Then you let go of all the thoughts and you abide in this vast, blissful space like emptiness for as long as you like, as long as you like, as long as you can, and just be in that state, experience that experience. Try to rest in that experience without any more analysis. You do the analysis to lead to that empty space, blissful, vast, empty space and then you just experience, you just rest in that. You don't do any more analysis. You just rest in that. The purpose of doing analysis is to lead to that understanding, that convictions. And once you come to that convictions, that understanding, then you don't do any more. You just rest. You just experience that. And when it's time to finish, you would be aroused of this blissful emptiness by your compassions, by your wish to benefit others. So the compassion is in order to be help and benefit to others, then you want to come out of that emptiness, As long as we are in that emptiness space, like emptiness meditations, if we don't come out of that, then we cannot be benefit to others by engaging in different activities to help and benefit others. So in order to help and benefit others, out of that compassion, then you want to come out of that meditative state. And you manifest again in your body and imagine that your mind is oneness with Mother Tara's mind. And then you visualize that clear light mind, that experience the emptiness. You can call exalted wisdom or the clear light mind that experience that emptiness manifests into a kind of that mind into the kind of light, come light like a rainbow body, light body. And that light rainbow body, that light manifests in this gross body, So that is in the form of this gross body. And so even though it's in that gross body, it's the nature of that exalted wisdom manifesting in that body. So you think that So it is not ordinary gross body like now one, but it's that exalted wisdom, that clear mind, that experience the emptiness manifesting that body. And then you think that mind, your mind, is that your most clear light mind, that pure clear light mind is inseparable and one with the Mother Tara's enlightened mind, and also is one with your Guru's enlightened mind, and then try to meditate, seeing by experiencing and seeing inseparable of your most clear light mind, and the Mother Tara, the deity, and the Buddha's mind, one, equal, same. And you make strong prayer that with this body and speech, you will benefit whatever sentient beings you come into contact with. So especially those with whom we come contact directly. Whichever sentient beings come in contact with our directly, we have some karmic connections. Because of that karmic connection, that's why we come in contact. And so since we have karmic connections, then there's a huge difference to be able to be more benefit or less benefit depending on how much karmic connection we have. The more karmic connection we have, the more we are able to benefit. So contact human, animal, whatever, and the purpose of your body and speech is to benefit others. So the purpose of your body, speech, and mind is to be help and benefit to others. Directly, indirectly, whatever way we can, Sometimes we can be help physically. Sometimes we might not be able to be helped physically. We might be able to help verbally. Sometimes we might not be able to help even physically and verbally, but we can be able to help through our mind, through our prayers, dedications, sending the love, compassion, sending the prayers. So, so in whatever we use our 3 doors, in whatever way we can be, any small help, any benefit in whatever way we can. And by doing that, we create even more stronger karmic connections to be more benefit and greater benefit in the futures to them, especially when we achieve enlightenment. Because of that karmic connection, we can guide and lead them to enlightenment very quickly, because of our previous karmic connections. And next is the praise to 21 Taras. So I don't think I'm going to go through all this 21 Taras today. Maybe hopefully in the futures, maybe I might be able to go through the whole 21 Tara praises. there's 21 verses, So again, Tara, there is chantable version. So if you can do that, that is even nice, And then there is the 21 Tara longer version, and there's the short praise to 21 Tara, but abbreviation version. So, also then sometimes you can recite that too. When you don't have time to do the 21 Tara, you can do the shorter one, where here. So this verse short is, as it says, is coming directly from Tara, to Adisha, Lama Adisha Divamkara, for the swift collection of meditative energies. So Tara was the main deity, personal deity of Adisha, Adisha as one of the greatest Indian masters at his time, 10, 11th centuries. And he was an instrument in reviving the Buddhism in Tibet, And at that time, at his time, during that 10, 11th centuries, he was most well-known Indian masters in India at that time. And they invite him to Tibet and to revive the Buddhism. Buddhism came around 7th, 8th centuries, went through the up and downs, and got polluted, diluted, and a lot of misunderstanding, lots of, and then, particular king from the western part of the Tibet, he wouldn't, see that the Buddhism, the purity of Buddhism has been destroyed with all this kind of mistaken and mixed. And so he wanted to revive to its purity, and that is how he invited Atisha. And Atisha, he had his main deity, personal deity was Tara, and he had a direct vision of her, and a lot of advice. He will follow her advice. Even when he was invited to go to Tibet, he wasn't so sure because he was not young. He was already, his age was old, has reached. And to go to Tibet, from India to Tibet, we can imagine, especially in those times. But, he was very inspired by the incredible sacrifice and compassion, bodhisattva of the king who invited. And so he felt very strong compassion for the Tibetan people and those who wanted to do that. But, whether he can make it, physically, all of that. And so he consulted Tara, and Tara told him, it will be beneficial if you go there. Even though he was warned that your life can be reduced, lifespan will be reduced if you go there, but in terms of benefiting, you will be a great benefit. And so he made decision to go, even though he knew his lifespan will be reduced because of the condition and everything. But since it was beneficial, so he decided to go, and he spent his last 17 years in Tibet, and he passed away there. And so this verse is that he received directly through the Tara himself. So that is what is where it says, Om, I prostrate to the goddess for destroy, liberating Lady Tara's homage to the goddess superior heroine, to Tara dispelling all the fears, granting all the benefit with Tara to her with the sound Soha I bow. So when you don't have much time, you can also recite this. When you don't have time to do 21 Tara, you can do this one. And when you don't have even this time, then you can do them even mantras, And then the next dedications, So, and so is normal dedications, May I quickly become Guru Aryatara. Normally, may I quickly become enlightenment. So here, when you do with the Aryatara, then that changes a little bit. May I quickly become Guru Aryatara and lead each and every sentient beings to her enlightened state, and because of this merit. And then, may the Supreme Jewel Bodhisattva that is not arise and grow, and that which is arise and not diminish, but increase more and more. And when we do these dedications, when you think of Bodhisattva, we think of two bodhisattva, ultimate bodhisattva and conventional bodhisattva. So when you think the conventional bodhisattva and ultimate bodhisattva, then the wisdom is included there. Ultimate bodhisattva is wisdom. Conventional bodhisattva is the method. So when we make this dedication, may bodhisattva to be arise or cultivated in those who have not cultivated, and those who have already cultivated, not to diminish, but increase more and more through the virtues of merit that we have created. So we think of both bodhisattva, and so, and then if there is a long life prayer for His Holiness, there are many verses of different prayers, long life prayer for His own Dalai Lama, written by different masters, different teachers. But this one is most common that everyone recite. all Tibetan probably all know this. In all monasteries, they will recite this. Some other versions, individually they might recite, but it's not that everyone recites, so not everyone will know. But this Khandri Ravakore, where it says the land encircled by snow mountain, that is the English translation. That one, all Tibetan will know that this verse, all the monastery knows that. So that is why I like to keep this one. Because everyone learned that, and whenever you go to any places, when they do that, you know what it is, and you can follow them, and then Lama Zopa Rinpoche's long life, also there is many different versions, long life of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's, by again different teachers have written long life prayers, but this is most common that we recite all the time. And then there is multiplying mantras. You can do that when you have time, and so that is the kind of So with that, I think we complete this practice, this Tara practice. Yes, please. Yes, Mary.
I just want to let everyone here know that the text that Geshe is referring to is online. You'll see it if you go to the Zoom. I don't know if you're familiar with our website, but that's where it is. It's not in this prayer book, but and the teachings previously, I think there's been 2 or 3 other teachings. They've all been recorded. So you'll be able to, if you just go to our website, you can. There's a YouTube channel and they're there. I just want you to know that. And we do meet it. It's every third Wednesday, every third Tuesday. It's Tara, where we do the Tara practice here. So you're welcome to online or in person.
Yeah, so that would be good if you can join the practice. You can do it at home yourself and also do in a group when you have time to come and do. And this is like one of the main advice that I often hear His Holiness whenever there is, like when the pandemic happens, whenever there is natural disasters, whenever there is kind of, problem in the world, violence and so forth, one of the advice His Holiness always is recite Tara's mantras. That has, because of her, as I said, because of her swift activities, being the Buddha of all the Buddha's activities. And so, so especially in Tibetans, hardly any Tibetans, there isn't hardly any Tibetan in the past, I don't know nowadays, who doesn't know the mantras of Avalokiteshvara Om Mani Padme Hum and Tara mantras. Everyone's from the very young, they know, they recite, they chant, and everyone, and elderly, all the Tibetan, they will know 21 Tara phrases. So therefore, so whenever we need any kind of, help, we can always, if possible, we can do Tara practice. When we have time, more extensive. When we have less time, we can do more shorter. When we have very little time, very short versions, and otherwise we can just recite the mantras with a strong devotion and with strong faith. So so that is the Tara practice. So any questions? Yes, please.
Geshe, thank you so much. I'm really grateful that you gave a commentary on this practice. Can everybody hear me online? I'm wondering, Geshe, oh no, I lost my question. Is it usual, is it common to combine like a green Tara practice with the 21 Taras?
Yeah. Well, if you have time, then of course you can combine those. That is wonderful. When you don't have time, then either you do 21 Tara praises, or you can do the sadhanas, longer, shorter, depending on medium, shorter, So many of the long sadhanas and that 21 Tara praises there, is included. But when you don't have time, so much time, then when you get a shorter version, then you can do the shorter version of 21 Taras. Or even if you don't have that time, you can do just the mantras, So, and that is same with all the practice, When you have time, we can do extensive. When you don't have time, we can do shorter. We can always be flexible, depending on our time. Yeah. Yes, please.
So for some reason, with
can you? I think maybe you might want to take so people can hear better.
Thank you, Geshe. For some reason, I don't know why. I've always recited. Seems like I've done 21 Taras since Tara, and I've never done both at the same time until I, started doing this practice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, when you do Tara Puja, that is Tara Puja, and 21 Tara is part of that, It's so. Normally, probably we do the, shorter versions of the sadhanas, more simple, shorter version of sadhanas. So then that does not include the 21 Taras, but yeah, if we can do that, that is wonderful with any Tara practice. But as I mentioned, when you don't have time, then you just do the shorter versions. Yeah.
Don't be shy, everybody. Ask questions.
So, any questions, comments from today or last time? If there is, if you don't have, then you don't have to feel. Yes, please, Lorraine.
First of all, thank you. You already asked the questions I didn't know that I had. But when you were referring to the symbolism of the mind, the snake to different animals, and what the implications were, and the snake particularly, I just noticed the snake. I'm looking at the snake next to the Buddha here, and I'm wondering about the symbolism of the snake in other aspects.
Snakes has different symbolism, in different, it is not always kind of fixed. Here, the snakes is related with jealousy. I think that is what in this first Dalai Lama's pray to the Tara, when he make this prayer for Tara to help to overcome the fear of jealousy of the snakes, So internally the jealousy, externally is the snake. So here, but like sometimes we see the wheel of the life. In the middle, there's the three animals: snake, rooster, or the bird, and the pig. In that, the snake is symbolizing anger, because those three symbolize the three root delusions. The pig symbolizes the ignorance, the snake symbolizes the anger, and the bird symbolizes the attachments. So it changes. And sometimes the snake symbolizes Naga. Naga is another being, that I think it's like serpent. I guess maybe that's, and so again, sometimes snakes symbolize Naga. That is why, like even with the name with Nagarjuna, they have this kind of 5 snakes. You write Nagas, and Nagas are particular beings. Probably not everyone can see, but I think some people might be able to see. Certain beings that are. There are different, whether Nagas, in some commentaries, Nagas are included part of the animal realms. In some, it's included in different realms. But anyway, so sometimes the snake symbolizes the Nagas as well. So, it can symbolize different according to different contexts. So I don't think it's one fixed like that way. Yeah. And those are the only kind of theory that come in my mind at the moment that I'm aware of. I think there are probably many others symbolism about the snake in other contexts, because my understanding, what I have read, what I know of only this much, there's more than 100 volume sutras, more than 200 volume of commentary by Indian masters, not to talk about all the commentary by Tibetan masters. So I haven't been able to read each of them, So what other they are inside, I don't know all of them. So, but those 3 I can recollect or remember now, at least those 3 different kind of symbolism related with the snake. Yeah. Yes, please.
Can you expand on the concept of emptiness? So, like, does everything come from this, or is it that we want to focus on emptiness so that we clear our mind, or that all things? How does that work?
Okay. The question is to explain a little bit on emptiness. Does everything come from emptiness? Or, is it about emptying all our thoughts? And so, yes, everything comes from emptiness. Nagarjuna said in one of his writings, fundamental treatise, because of emptiness, everything is possible. If it wasn't emptiness, nothing will be possible. And I think even if we talk, even we think, even the existence of this world started from, empty, even if you think of number, it started with a 0, and then it all started. Shunyata is the Sanskrit word for emptiness. And shunya means 0, kind of, and shunyata is the emptiness. So similarly, as Nagarjuna says, because everything is emptiness in the sense that everything is empty of independent existence, empty of existing by itself. Nothing can exist independently or by itself. Everything's depend on other factors. Since it depends on other factors, when we change the factors, then everything becomes possible. Everything becomes possible because everything depends on factors, different factors, other factors, and because we can change those different factors, conditions. And by changing those conditions and factors, you change everything, the situation, the result, the circumstances, or everything becomes possible. If they are independent, isolated, existing by itself, then you cannot change it. They become same, static, as it is. Suffering cannot be changed. unenlightened mind cannot be changed. But because suffering is dependent on many causes, conditions, factors. So when we change those factors, then the suffering can be changed into a happiness, something else. Our unenlightened mind is unenlightened mind because of many other factors, conditions. And when that condition are changed, factors are changed, then that can be transformed from unenlightened to enlightened. So whether it's external world, whether it's internal world, all those can be possible, transform, change, all of that, because the nature of all of them is that they are dependent on other factors and conditions. And therefore, everything is dependent on arising, everything exists by depending on other factors. Therefore, nothing exists by itself independently. And that is what emptiness means. Emptiness doesn't mean there's no cup, there's no computer, there's no table, there's no one here. It doesn't mean that. It just means there's no independent computer, not actually computer, iPad, or independent iPad or iPad existing by itself without depending on other factors. There's no independent cup, there's no independent table, myself, yourself, chairs, everything's here. That is what emptiness.
They sometimes call that interbeing. Would that be the same idea?
Yes, sometimes in the connections, dependent arising, dependent origination, in the being, you can say, yeah. So
nothing can exist by itself.
Nothing exists by itself. We use different terms. As here, they do not exist from its own side, or independently, or inherently. They all have same meaning here. If it exists by its own side, then it will be existing by itself, without depending on other factors. But there's nothing external, internal phenomena or things that could exist by itself or independently without depending on other factors. Yeah.
This is the first time I ever understood that. Thank you for the question.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, we have another question.
Maybe would you like to put the thank you.
So, related to the previous question, and the response, it reminds me of the line, emptiness is form and form is emptiness. Is that what? Okay, so everything is possible means that form is coming.
Yes, exactly. As you mentioned, form is empty. Okay, so what it means is form and the rest of the phenomena, everything is empty of inherent existence or existing by itself. That is what I mean. Form is empty. Doesn't mean there's no form. It just means there's no inherently existing or independently existing form or form existing by itself. Form is empty. Emptiness form is if the form do not exist by itself, how does form exist? And then emptiness form, the form exists by depending on other factors, other conditions, So therefore, with that, then we talk about what we call two reality, ultimate reality and conventional reality. The first one, form is emptiness, is ultimate reality. Emptiness form is explaining the conventional reality, and those two reality do not contradict, but they support, enhance each others. So in every phenomena, there's two reality: ultimate reality and conventional reality. Ultimate reality is that nothing exists by itself. The conventional reality, everything exists by depending on other factors. So sometimes the way is like two sides of the one coin, And sometimes I explain this way. When we talk about emptiness, we try to explain, we try to understand the reality of that phenomena, how it does not exist. Okay. And when we talk about conventional reality, we talk about how it exists, but basically describing same phenomena, same reality. We can talk about how this cup do not exist. Yeah, to understand reality or nature of this cup, we can describe what it is not. Okay. The more you understand what it is not, you understand the reality or nature of this cup better. And then you can also understand the nature of this cup better by also from other perspective, how it exists. Are you clear? Describing same phenomena, same object, but there are two ways of describing it or understanding nature. One, what it is not or how it does not exist from negation point of view, that is the emptiness. The other is same phenomena, same nature, explaining or understanding how it exists. And that is more from affirmative point of view. You can understand the nature from negation point of view or from affirming point of view. And when we talk about emptiness, it's talking about from the negation point of view. When we talk about conventional reality or how it exists, depending on other factors, that's affirming how it exists. But basically, it's understanding the same nature of the same phenomena. So I think, okay, I'm coming.
One more question. David?
Yes, Lauren, you have questions?
I just wanted to make sure I'm grasping what you're saying, because I listened to Thich Nhat Hanh talk about mindfulness when you're drinking your tea and mindfulness meditation, where you think about the cycle that brings water that becomes tea from the clouds and go back in your mind with everything you drink and everything you eat. And when you contemplate those things, you understand how things cannot exist in one side, all of these other factors. So it's basically cause and effect. Am I getting this right?
Yes, when we talk about dependent arisings, there are three different levels on this dependent arising. One is dependent on cause and conditions that you just described. Then there are understanding dependent as point of view of its parts. Whatever object is dependent on not only previous cause and condition, its parts, And then there is understanding of dependent arising in the form of that how everything is labeled by the mind, imputed by the mind, depending on the mind, the thoughts to impute on the basis. So there is these three levels of understanding of dependent arisings. So yeah. Yes.
I don't know if we have time for this, but,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Someone on the chat. I'm sorry. And David B has a question. Geshe, it is up there. Geshe, what's the difference between inner offering and outer offering in Tara practice?
Yeah, I think when we have inner offering, then it is more to do high yoga tantra. In lower tantra, we don't have inner offerings. External offering is, the offering of flowers, all different offering that we arrange, on the altars. Inner offering is a particular substance that is, made with certain particular substance with particular ceremonies. So that is what inner offering is.
David, did you understand? Did that answer your question?
So what is different between the inner offering and outer Dharma practice? Okay.
That was the only one, I think. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, no. We're just, I already asked a question. So, please ask away. I just had to make sure there's people online. Oh, of course.
Okay, so that will be the last questions. Would you have questions or comments, whatever?
So how do the Tibetan believe that we came into existence?
Uh-huh.
That's karma.
How we come in exist, human beings, any beings.
Like,
Uh-huh.
how did form come into existence?
Mm-hmm. So the question is, what does in Tibetan Buddhism, how we come in existence, the world and the being inside the world, forms, everything. Well, first of all, Tibetan Buddhism is Nalanda traditions, Indian Nalanda Mahayana traditions. So it is not separate from that traditions. Unfortunately, in India, that has died. So the continuity is in Tibet, but so in Shantideva's guides both of a way of life, he described, how the external world or materials or matters, how they come to exist by depending on different other energies, one energy is coming together, many particles, different energies make it, whether it's fire or earth, or whether it's water, whatever, different. And when you kind of create different energies or different atoms, then it has different color, different shape, different size. There's that part. So it depending on its own particular cause in that way. Then he described about our experience of living beings, sentient beings. And our experiences, he explained, is a result of our action, karma, So he seems to kind of indicate two different things. Our experience are a result of our karma, our actions in the past and karmic result. Whereas we cannot say this table is result of karma, is a result of the carpenter putting together the wood, the wood, wherever he got it, the carpenter and everything putting together. So many costs, that is how it is. We cannot say this is the result of my karma. And so that will be function in the world itself. But our experience with this is my karma. My experience with this table and your experience with this table might be different. At the moment, I'm experiencing with this table, you are not experiencing directly the way I experience. I'm using this table for use that, and that has. And so my experience relation with that is our karma, but in terms of the table itself is same just as the science explains, same things. Our body is the result of our parents' eggs and sperms, whatever those is the result of that. And our consciousness kind of having that connection, that sperm and egg, entering that is our karma. Our karma drive our consciousness into that particular time with that particular person, parent, when the eggs or sperm are put together, and then that creates the beings, So the beings definitely karma, but like I haven't studied myself depth enough, but like in His Holiness explained, and many other teachers, in Kala Chakra teaching studies, they describe about how this earth or come into existence, and the explanation very much like the explanation like Big Bang, there's empty at one time this is all empty, you know, and then they call about, in Tibetan they call uncountable, is space particles, and very, very tiny, that only that is the space particle, and then that come into existence after certain time, and then through that, then, you know, the different elements comes into existence. One element lead to the next elements, and then slowly the earth is, and so that is in that culture, that it is supposed to describe that. So yeah, and the coming of the earth, so that the living beings in that earth can experience whatever they experience, that is their karma, you know. Okay, so we'll do the dedications.
Thank you, Geshe. For the Golden Prayer Book, it's page 235. We'll do the first 2 verses, and then after that, we'll switch to 244.
Lama Sangye Yurne Do Chi Yang Maleba Sa Sentient Rinpoche, Mage Panake Gyuchi, Yewa Nyamba Mebaya, Kongre Kondu Bewasho.
And then we don't have this one, Geshe, for the online people, so we'll just do this one if that's okay. The wish granting, wish fulfilling, jewel source of every single living and
having in this world.
to
In the incomparable kind in the Gyatso, this is may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Chang Xin Chang Pen Yahweh, Ten Zin Yong Pe Wei Kun So Do Bo, Cho Song Ku Wei Le Mo Tu Tu, Da So Tu Je, Kun Du Sha Ten Shu.
And then, I can't remember what page this is on, sorry everyone. Venerable one, to you whose kind succeeds that love offers to those wanderers far off places, especially the West. Mindful and loving consent for us in descending again into the family of our distant land. We make this request, O Lama, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And today is the last Friday class for this year. So, and then we will have a last Sunday class for this year, this coming Sunday. And then we'll see you in 6 months. So, okay. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you.